Howdy. Welcome back for more Space Engineers. Today we're going to be taking a look at the record block, the move block, and how they're going to help you with your drones, both in space and in gravity, because they actually act a little different depending on where you're at. So, let's get started. We're going to start off in space, and we're going to start off by taking a look at the AI recorder block and the AI flight block, because both of these are what you're going to be using for just about any drone. And if you'll notice, the flight block and the recorder block both have an orientation to them. You can see the front written on there. So these ones you do have to worry about orientation, but not as much as you would think. The flight block, it is far more important to worry about orientation than it is with the recorder block. Now we're going to take a look at this drone right here. You'll probably recognize it if you've watched any of my series. It's a good, sturdy drone. I've added a move block and a flight block, or a flight block and a recorder block to the front of the ship, and we're just going to use those because that's how much simpler this setup makes it from using the remote control. All you need are 2 blocks for the beginning path. So let's look at the AI flight block first. The AI flight block, if there's any errors, you'll see them down here. You can see I have 1 error, but there can be multiple, and they'll tell you exactly what's wrong, and you'll be able to address them. Now, the block itself, it has, toggle on off, show block and terminal, toolbar config, show on HUD, the normal buttons. The AI behavior, you'll need to turn that on for it to take over and do the autopilot stuff. The collision avoidance means it's going to try and miss other obstacles in the area. So with this turned on, it'll try not to run into other ships and try not to run into other voxels. Precision mode on off, and you can read it there. If you have precision mode on, it tries to hit the exact point of the GPS coordinate that it's aiming for. You have that off, it just needs to get close. Speed limit, we all know what the speed limit is. Min altitude really matters if you're on a planet. In fact, it only matters if you're on a planet. Same with the align to P gravity. That only matters and only affects you if you're on a planet. And the pitch angle and roll angle only matter on a planet. We will be looking at that later when we go down to the planet, so I can show you what this does. This block right here, the flight block, takes its direction from one of the other AI blocks. It is an ensign. It just pilots the ship. It doesn't make any decisions unless it's related to these 4 sliders right here, which aligned to gravity doesn't matter right now. So now let's look at the AI recorder block. This is the captain of the ship. It's the brain. It's going to make all the decisions, all the important decisions. And you can see it's got these commands here. It's got the on-off, showing terminal, showing toolbar config, show block on HUD. And unlike usual with the show on HUD, you're going to need this if you actually want to see your waypoints on your HUD. I'll show you that a little bit later. Enable AI behavior. You won't have to mess with this particular switch on here ever. And then the play. The play will make it play through whatever waypoints you program into the waypoint section right here. And this is to go through the different waypoints we programmed in. You can see the clear selection means if you've selected any of them, you're going to deselect them. The delete selection will delete that selection. Delete all will, of course, delete all. And you'll be able to set up actions at each waypoint. We'll be looking at that later as well. Reverse order will actually take all the waypoints in the list and reverse them. So it'll go through the path in the opposite direction. Show path on HUD is going to show you the path, and that's going to require that your show on HUD option be on. Show selected points will show the points that you have selected in the list. Those come in real handy. These both come in real handy for programming your flight path and setting everything up. You probably won't need them after that point. The record will record a flight path, so it'll record a line of points. And this is how often it will record those points in your flight path when you hit record. So every 1.7 seconds or every meter. Both of these have to be true before it will actually record a point. So if you've traveled 1.5 meters, or sorry, if you've traveled 0.7 meters and it's been 2 seconds, it won't record a point because you haven't traveled 1 meter. If it's been 2 seconds, if it's been 2 meters, but it's only been 1 second, it won't record. It's only if you've met both of this criteria. And then the add a waypoint is to manually add a waypoint. Reference beacon tells it to reference a beacon in determining where these waypoints are. And it also tells it to stay in reference to that beacon. So if the beacon moves, your points will move with it. So your waypoints in this block actually follow the beacon. They actually follow the orientation, rotation, location of this beacon. So they will follow this beacon perfectly. And this is the beta beacon because the one on the planet is the alpha beacon. We're going to clear that selection for now, though. So what you're going to do to program a drone is you're going to come in here and you're going to go into your AI record block and you're going to set waypoints. The way I like to do that is I like to put all the bars or all the options on my toolbar. So if we open this up, I have AI flight, AI behavior on off. That will turn on the ensign of the ship. That puts him at a station, says do your work. The AI recorder will record your path or play a path. So we've got the play here. This will tell it to play through the points that we program. The AI recorder record on actually records a path. So I can toggle between recording a path and all the way over here, recording just a waypoint. For what we're going to do today, this should be all we need on the bar. Okay, so I've pulled myself a little bit farther away from the connector there, and that's because I'm going to record a small path. And there's one thing you need to remember. You need to start from the start point and end. Your last point needs to be on the dock. Because once you come in here and you get points in here, like say this one here, which shouldn't be recorded. I accidentally hit the record button. But there is no move up and down. You can't move them. You can't drag them. They stay in that order. All you can do is reverse them. You can't just say, okay, I need this point here, but I need it to be after point 5 and before point 6. You can only add it to the end or the beginning of the list. So we're going to delete all waypoints. And we're going to start here because we're going to pretend this is the start of our path. And we are going to record a point. And now we're going to fly over this way a little bit. And we're going to hit record. And we're going to fly over here. Okay, and that should have recorded that little bit of a jaunt. Now we're going to bring it over to the connector and set it on the connector. How far off am I? There we go. And now we're going to record this point. That is the last point connected to the connector. Now we're going to lift off. And we should be able to just say AI on. We just turned on the ensign. And now we're telling the captain to tell the ensign where to go by hitting the play button. Now that's going to head right over to the point 1, which I will have it point 0. I'll have it display them all right now. As you see, it's just moving through those points, and it's going to try and get almost exactly on all of them because we have precision mode turned on. And you see it's reorienting itself to each of these points. Now it's going to try and orient itself to that last point, exactly how it was when we hit the record button, and bring us right down to the connector. So basically this has made it much simpler. I didn't have to do a 3-point turn and align my ship and program the up down. In space, it is this simple to set up a drone. You just record the points and tell it to play. Okay, so the only thing we did wrong here is we did not set these waypoints to this beacon before we programmed it. So it does not register this beacon at all. And if we go in and we add them, say we come over here, without that beacon being active as the waypoint anchor, without it being the reference beacon down here, then it's not going to move with that beacon. And if we try to tell it to move with that beacon now, and then we come out and we turn on the AI systems and we tell it to play through, it doesn't know what to do. There are no points recorded relative to that beacon. And we can't just add them to the list. So what we need to do is we would have to re-record this with this beacon selected. So we'll clear this, and once we clear that, you'll see it'll go back and it'll run it again. But the problem comes in when we come in here and we say, get this anchor out of the way. Now, it's not moving relative to that beacon, so it's going to go where it used to land on it, and that's moved. That's fixed by setting that beacon as a reference. You set that beacon as a reference, and the whole system would have turned with that beacon, and it'd be going and landing on that connector right now. If we were to turn this back, you'd see that it would come up and land right underneath that connector. So there we go. That connector will come up, and it will come up right underneath that. And we're ready to connect. Now, you can fix this if you had that oversight in the beginning by re-recording the path. You would just need to come into your recorder down here, and you would have to select Beacon Beta. You would have to delete all the waypoints and then re-record the whole thing by going out and re-recording a point here, a point here, point here, and then we'll land on the beacon again. And yes, I know I sped that up because it took me a minute to get down here on the beacon properly. Now we're going to record a beacon, a waypoint right here on the beacon. Now we're done recording, and it is referencing that beacon. So if we come up here and we come off of that and we tell it turn AI on and play through the points, and we hop out and we twist the piece out of the way, it will try and go to the point relative to the beacon, and it will still land on that connector now, which is kind of cool. There we go. If I sped that up properly, you saw it much quicker than I did, because That was a painfully long path to sit here and record. So yeah, I hope you understand how the beacons work. It is that simple in space. There is nothing major you need to worry about in space. On the planet, the P gravity adds an extra factor that needs to be addressed using the actions inside of your record block. So we're going to go back to the back into the gravity, and we're going to look at another one. All right, so we're down here on the planet again, and here we have to worry about the planetary gravity and how that affects how the blocks work. So if we come into here and we look at the flight block, you can see that it's got a minimum altitude. That's obviously going to matter here. And it's got a line to planetary gravity. Default is 45 degrees pitch and 45 degrees roll. So it will stay within 45 degrees. I've got it set to 44. That's because I had them moved previously. Now, collision avoidance is off because when you're trying to dock your ship, if collision avoidance is on, your drone will try to avoid whatever it's docking to. So it'll never be able to hit that docking point because it's trying to stay away from the bigger ship and somehow get to a point that's right next to the bigger ship. So it can't get there. It's not allowed to. So now we're going to come over to the recorder. The recorder is set to go to beacon alpha as its reference beacon. So all the points we're about to record will move relative to that beacon. Now we're going to record some points here. We're going to record one right here, and you can see that 0 just popped up, and we're going to fly away from it. This is another thing. I should mention this real quick. That 0, that is the AI recorder block, and that option is right down here, show selected points and show path on HUD. Those particular items, they are unreliable. The show path on HUD in particular is unreliable. Don't rely on that. Show selected points is reliable. It will allow you to see the points on your HUD as a waypoint. So just to note, don't rely on these 3-axis waypoints. Now we can see 0 there that we just set. We're going to fly over here. We're going to intentionally change the orientation to point down towards the ground, and we're going to record another point. Now we're going to fly down and land on that and record our last point. Maybe. Thought I was closer. Okay, well, I'm going to replace a connector real quick, and then we'll record that last point. Be right back. All right, connector replaced. Let's not crash the ship this time. Okay, my bad piloting skills aside, this is where we want that last point, so we're going to record that last point. And you can see right there, we've got our path. Now, if we come in and we fly this off of here, fly it over this way, we can do AI flight move, AI behavior, AI recorder, tell it to play. And that will go to waypoint 0, waypoint 1, and waypoint 2. We're going to hit play, and it's going to go. We can already see the path it's going to take. You can see it's staying within 45 degrees. If you need it less than that because you don't have sufficient thrust in side to side or back and forth, you can modify that to be much tighter. Okay, so you see it's going to follow all the way to 1. And now it's going to try and go to 2. And you see we're going to have issues here. So we're going to turn the flight machine off. Now that's the problem I wanted to show you. When you're in P gravity, it ignores the waypoints and the orientations of the waypoints. So if we come back this way and we come over to, or come into our menu, we can come into our AI recorder. And when we get to waypoint 1, which is the last one before we hit the landing pad, we can set up action. We can come into the AI moved block, and we can say align to P gravity on off. That will turn the align to P gravity off because it's on right now. And that's good. And now we can go to AI recorder, or go back into this, and we can go to the waypoint 2. We can set up another action, align to P gravity on. Now when we play through this, okay, now this time it will try to align to P gravity while it goes from point 0 to point 1. But when it gets to point 1, we've turned off the align to P gravity, so it should try to align us to the coordinate system we were at, or the orientation we were at when we docked up the first time. So now you'll see it will not nosedive towards that connector. Instead, it's going to line up to the orientation we were at last time, or when we hit the record button. So now we're good to go. And the align to gravity is back on. So if we come in here and we tell it to play again, it will stay aligned to the gravity within 45 degrees. This is how you're going to have to do it. Because even if we were to come in and we re-recorded this where we were coming straight down, if the align to P gravity was for some reason incorrect, say you're trying to dock onto a mobile base and you're sitting on the side of a hill because, you know, we don't have a whole lot of flat spaces to park our rovers on in this game. The only place it would work would be on a lake. So if you're sitting on a hill, your ship would try to align to, or your drone would try to align to P gravity rather than the connector. Turning that align to P gravity off in that last step means it's going to try and align to the beacon on whatever vessel you're docking to. So that's rather important and kind of required. And you saw that you can set up actions at each waypoint. You can tie those to timer blocks if you need more than one action. You can come in here and you can see we've got waypoint 1. If you need more than 9 actions, you're going to have to use a timer block because you only have one action here. So, timer blocks will be your best friend, I think. However, for most cases, one should be enough here. That should be everything you need to know on how to make a drone. With what I've told you here today, you should be able to design, build, and have your own fleet of drones running and operational within however long it takes you to design the perfect drone for you. Now, go build a drone. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to do my best to answer. If you're looking for information on the defense block or the assault block, I will be looking into those in another video. Thank you. Have a good day.